Welcome aboard everyone, Simon here from the Wells of Wall Street. Guys, Quant is on our radar today. That is QNT on the exchange. This is a phenomenal blockchain powerhouse, guys, involved with an incredible amount of unreal institutional level finance sector. Guys, I want to pick a few points out for this video. And of course, those that don't know about Quant, we do cover this quite often. More recently, about the Digital Pound Foundation here in the UK, is where they are one of the key advisors, and there's a multitude of reasons why they're behind most of this. But we're focusing, guys, on this article from 2020, and the reason I bring it to attention is because this is when the merger was announced in regards to the permissions given to start this mechanism of Nexi and SIA pulling together. Now, why does this have much to do with Quant? Well, we'll answer that in a second, because the answer is quite literally worth billions, if not maybe trillions of dollars as time goes by. But in the recent times, and I'm talking about the last few days, coming out of Milan, for example, for Nexi, is the completion of the signature aspect of the two groups of SIA and Nexi coming together, bringing in billions upon billions of dollars of revenue. Why is this of interest to Quant? Because Quant, for example, has very heavy links in regards to the likes of JP Morgan, HSBC, and many other institutions. They are powering via their network JP Morgan for blockchain technology, as they are with banking systems around the world as well. SIA and Nexi come into play because Nexi, for example, is backed by the likes of HSBC, and SIA, I believe, backed not only by JP Morgan but potentially the Rothschilds as well. So there's a multitude of things going on here in the background, and we mentioned here Quant Network being very heavily supporting the likes of the Bitcoin chain, Ethereum, XRP, Ripple, Binance chain, Stellar, EOS, IOTA, Constellation, i.e. DAG, and as it mentions here, the JP Morgan's Quorum blockchain, R3 Corda, and the Hyperledger Fabric blockchain. It is substantial. And of course here as well, JP Morgan UniCredit seen front runners to handle payments firm SIA's 4 billion Milan listing. It's all interlaced, guys. This is incredible to see this momentum kicking in, and this is the sheer sort of magnitude of it, really. One of these articles mentioning here about the aspect of SIA and Nexi coming together. Combined, they have around 2 million merchants. 2 million merchants, guys. 120 million cards, and an overall number of processed annual tracked transactions equal to 21 billion euros. Absolutely crazy, guys. And being obviously regulated by FCA already in terms of the avenues that they've gone down. You see all of these aspects about crypto under regulation and this, that, and the other. While meanwhile, behind closed doors, the likes of Quant are going about their business with gigantic financial partners, the likes of JP Morgan. I mean, look at this. JP Morgan develops blockchain systems for Siemens payments. I mean, this is crazy. These names like being thrown about here and the monetary values behind them. Again, efforts to incorporate blockchain technology into their operations. HSB and Wells Fargo, they agreed to settle currency trades directly on blockchain. Well, we've already mentioned the usage of Nexi and SIA and the fact that Quant is powering majority of this. I think it's absolutely insane, and it reflects really Quant's price point compared to other projects out there, and just how perhaps advanced they are in both perhaps communication with all these big institutions, but also perhaps its technology as well. And there's no doubt in my mind the likes of Ripple and Stellar will have their time in the years to come. I'm a long-term holder on both, including Zenfin's XTC. I think they all have their own magnificent part to play in the transitional aspect of finance in the world, amongst other things around blockchain in the world as well. And we talk about automated market makers. We talk about machine to machine learning, all of these things, especially when we talk about IOTA being involved with Quant as well. Absolutely insane. Rothschilds here mentioned, SIO, which is being advised by Rothschilds. You're talking about JP Morgan and Rothschilds, arguably, probably after a few people maybe like Schwab and all that in the World Economic Forum, the richest families in the world, going back century, 2 centuries maybe. It's very interesting history about the Rothschilds, in particular their ownership of many agricultural lands, corporations of food giants, and finance in general, along with the Rockefellers, of course. The Rockefellers, if anyone hasn't read it yet, go and check out their very, very interesting proposal in 2010 about a scenario that wanted to play out over the next 10 years, which involved, ironically, a pandemic at the end of it, conveniently timed to perfection. Go check that out. It's actually a foundation paper you can download off their website. It's certainly in the archives for sure. It's amazing what you can do when you do a bit of dot connecting, and all these companies follow the money, guys. This is absolutely incredible. We see what's going on with the trashing of the dollar, with the trashing of the sectors and inflation and this, that and the other. I will tell you now categorically, and I've said it over and over and over again, the transition is coming to digital currency. They are trashing every single traditional market there possibly can be, including banks probably as well. Our high street banks are disappearing left, right and centre. This is coming whether you like it or not. And we will cover the Quant's year review in more detail, hopefully at the weekend. We're going to put out some really key aspects. We've already covered most of these throughout the last few months anyway. But I wanted to bring these incredible partnerships, these incredible things going on in the background. And once, like I said, you dot connect everything and realize who's involved in this, it really gives massive credibility and verification in your mind as an investor when you're looking at the likes of Quant and its technology. Let's jump into the chart, guys. Smash the like button if you like what you hear and see, and make sure you subscribe if you have not done so already. Quant's price, guys, is very much reflective if you think about it in comparison with Ripple and XLM and Stellar. Of course, they're at different areas of their life cycle, but Quant has obviously had a multitude of fantastic news across this year. Obviously earlier in the year as well about the Digital Pound Foundation, which had an incredible influx in the cost and price of QNT. But we've had this nice correction downwards over this period of time from this September period to where we are now. Probably looking at, I think, a drop down to here, which was a maximum around 70%. We always say between 30 and 70% correction, particularly on a long-term functionality of a correction is usually 70. We had that fast-tracked and we come back up. Some nice tail-ups again with news recently again. But now we're sort of trying to gain this support mechanism around this sort of 163 mark or 160. And we're doing a very good job of this at the moment with Quant. There's an area of interest for me personally around this area, pretty much where we're floating around now. We've got touch points here where we saw resistance earlier in the year in August. We've had some touch points which clearly was an emphasis of another barrier to hit here. We've come back down to these areas and we've fluctuated very nicely so far around that. Obviously I'd love to see QNT come down a bit further just so we can snap some more up at these crazy prices. But we put these areas in, if you remember, a while back now, maybe a month, 2 months ago, areas of interest, and we've hit both of those, and we're now fluctuating around this area that we said that is going to be a really key area because of these interesting moves around this part. So when we talk about the real price of Quant and its support mechanism, of course we had a lot of movement down here sub $100. We've shot great past that. But now I think there's so much institutional value into this. I don't think we'd come back down to these levels for some time. Obviously we might have a big correction if some variables externally like lockdowns and things kick in. We may see us come down to that 100 mark, but I think that's far-fetched. I'm not going to say it's definitely not going to happen. It's obviously a possibility, but I think that the institutional money that's in this now, both from retail and high-end levels of investment, are clear to see. And there is obviously a clear magnetism in here to not want to drag this down below that 150 mark for definite. Albeit we're still on a bit of a downward trend, we can look at a few indicators here, for example, and just see that the MACD is looking quite positive still at the moment, but it is very slowly tailing off slightly. So we may see a bit of a stability around that 150 mark, and hopefully gain that as a definitive support line to take us up to more higher levels as time goes by. We've had these lower regions on the RSI, both on the 14-28 day, not as bad on the 90 day, but also this big influx here. Of course, news coming out over the last few days. As we mentioned, those articles came around the 16th, so you've obviously got a few rumours there about what's going on with those mergers and things, as well as other things that they're doing, of course, with the ledger system that they're building. But we're now having a nice little sort of tail off into this area. For me as an investor, I'm kind of thinking, well, 40, especially on a 14-day and a 28-day, around that 40 mark, is a good indicator for me personally, not financial advice, but what I do is see that as a lower risk level. It means that we may not come down as too much further, especially now we've had that big drop. It's now stabilizing itself, so we could come down a bit more, perhaps down to a 37 mark-ish, and that might be where we see that 160, 150 mark. But at this current point in time, I think the stability is really showing right now in quant. But I'm looking now that I've sort of obtained some in these drops that we saw earlier this month, I'm now waiting just a bit longer. I'm not going to be angry if I did buy some right now, but I am just waiting to see if we come back down to this 150 area again to touch these points that we saw at the earliest area of December, and again to confirm, because if you look here, we've pretty much gone in price discovery mode from this point here, arguably at $88, and since then it's been taking a while for us to get back down to that. And like I said, on this day in particular, we had the low of $111, and it just didn't want to come down to 110. So I think that's a consideration, is that can we come back down to those areas? And I'd be overjoyed to see that. I know that sounds a bit selfish, but to save an extra $30-40 here and there per token investment, I think that's an incredible move. So I'm going to play the patience game for a bit, because like I said, I've taken advantage already. But for those out there that might be looking for entry points, like I said, I think these kind of areas, depending on what money you're putting in, obviously, and this is not financial advice, but I wouldn't be angry at putting some in this area, but just consider that the downward trend is coming in slightly, and we may need to come back and test these lower regions again. But that aside, guys, Quant as a project is obviously phenomenal. Big partnerships, big opportunities, big things going on in the background. This would 100% be a long-term hold, and I think over the next 5 years, it'll be very, very interesting from the digital currencies perspective and CBDCs, the ledger systems built into big institutions like we just mentioned, JP Morgan, Rothschilds, the likes of Siemens getting involved, and the likes of the integration of partnerships that they've already been speaking with. IOTA is one of our favorite projects here. We know what it's capable of. We know what the world is going to be with IOTA in the future, and Quant's going to have its part to play as well, as are all the others. We talk about the triple X crypto all the time: XDC, XRP, XLM. Quant obviously doesn't begin with an X, but I would 100% be adding this to a portfolio if you're very mega excited about the financial aspect of crypto and blockchain, because everything else has its own place. The IOTA with its tangle mechanism in AI and machine learning, but Quant has its own uniqueness and opportunity. And I, for one, am so grateful every day for entering this market, for entering this space. When I did, I wish it was obviously earlier, but it is what it is, and I'm here now, and you guys are here with us today. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We will catch up with Quant over the next couple of weeks, but certainly drop a Quant video next week at least, and we'll see how the play out of the move comes in for these next few days and weeks ahead. Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you in the next Quant video update. Bye bye.